Yo, what up? It's Will Maker. Today I'll be going over my third part of my restoration series where I'll rebalance, replace drum sounds, and fix a key of an instrument. So, with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Don't you hate it when you have a 2-track and the drums are overpowering everything in your mix and you have to EQ and compress the life out of the recording? Or you have a kick or snare that you wish you could replace? In the final part of my restoration series, I'm going to go over the tools I use for rebalancing a 2-track or old recording. So if you're new to stem separation or drum replacement, this is for you. If you missed part 1 or part 2 of the series, I went over removing hiss, hums, clip tracks, removing reverb, and techniques that you can use to treat bad recordings. And in the final part of the series, I'm going to go over rebalancing and replacing drum samples, along with fixing a bass line that was out of key. There are tons of stem separations out there. I personally really like RipX Daw because of the drum separation. I find balanced drums are crucial to good sounding mix. There are 2 things that I really like about this. 1, I have control over my kick and my snare. RipX also allows you to do any balancing corrections. Secondly, if a kick or snare doesn't sound right, you can replace it with one that does. You can replace those drums in RipX, or you can use a separate plugin. I like apulSoft's App Trigger. There are other options out there as well. XLN, Steven Slate, Waves just recently released a drum replacement of their own. In this example, I have a song that needs rebalancing. I need to replace an old kick, and I also need to fix a bass line because it was out of key. So I'll break down how I fix this. First, I wanted my drums separated, and I use RipX to separate my drums. To use RipX, all I have to do is just drag my sample right into RipX. I'm going to be given some options: voice, other, bass, drums, and percussion. So I can go ahead and rip this. Once I do that, my tracks are over here on the left. So once your sample's separated, you'll have everything listed over here. Into guitar, bass, kick, percussion, snare, I add hi-hat. RipX isn't perfect. So what you'll have to do, especially with the drums and percussion, is you have to actually go through each individual track. And then at that point, sometimes what will end up happening is you may have a snare here listed with the kick. So when that happens, it's real easy to fix. All you got to do is highlight what's not in the right place. You come over here and then you click right here, and that will actually put it right where it's supposed to be. So once I go through everything and clear everything up, then at that point, I basically render everything out. If it's a sample, I'll put all my sample together and I'll just render this out, and then I'll render out my snare, hi-hat, kick, etc. Now I could replace my drums in RipX, but I just prefer to use App Trigger once I have it rendered into Pro Tools. So this is how easy it is to replace a drum sample in App Trigger. So I'll go ahead and I'll play the track. Basically, once I found my drum sample, so in this case, I'm going to use this kick right here. I'm just going to drag this right here. Now we'll go ahead and we'll just take a listen. So this was the kick before. And after. Super easy. And you also have some additional options here too as well. So the next thing I needed to correct was the bass line. The bass line was out of key. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Elastic Audio. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select polyphonic. Now I'll highlight whatever I need to change the key in. Head over here to clip, elastic properties, and now I can change the pitch. So if I need to move something up a semitone, 2 semitones, down a semitone, I can do it all right here. In this case, thankfully, the bass line was super simple. So you can see that this was out of key, but this was also hitting a wrong note. So all you have to do is just make a little slice, and then you can go ahead and you can correct whatever that you need to correct by going up or down a semitone. The next tips that I have are when you're fully mixing a 2-track using stem separation. When creating an acapella, you should be fine minus some of the artifacts that you'll hear. If you're trying to rebalance an old demo and don't have access to the original vocals, this is where things can get a little difficult. Depending on what you're trying to do, the stem separation I find for vocals that aren't really mixed that well to begin with can come out a little thin, and they'll have artifacts, and they also sound a little crispy at times. Because this is AI, I find that when mixing vocals, it doesn't quite respond the same way the original vocals would respond, at least the vocals that I've run across. The good thing is that when everything is played together, you don't really hear many of the artifacts, so you can do a decent job of rebalancing. So, there you have it. These are my techniques and tools that I use to address audio when it's not in the best condition. And if you like content like this, please feel free and like and subscribe. Other than that, peace out.